We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, welcome back to the channel that takes stupidity to space and just, kind of leaves it there. Thanks for joining me once again tonight. It's not necessarily a flat Earth debate. I'm talking to someone who has some specific questions about the heliocentric model, most specifically about meteors, so that'd be fun. You're wondering why the curtains are open? It's because there's been some incredible lightning tonight, and I thought we might see that. So anyway, but let's just get on with it. Quentin, welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Thanks very much for joining. I know it's nice and early over there in Australia.
It's cool.
You wanted to talk about meteors specifically, so why don't you just take a minute, introduce yourself, give your position on the shape of the Earth and the heliocentric model, and just let us know what your questions are, and then we can just get into it.
Okay. Well, I'm Quentin, kid from Australia. It's pretty cold here. I'm just holding my phone, so if it shakes, it's because I'm shivering.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily flat Earth, because I think there's some holes in the in the flat Earth model, like sunsets and sunrises. But I don't go in for the heliocentric model either, because I think there's so many holes in it. And I was saying about meteorites. Well, basically, with the big thing I was saying about meteorites is the meteorite showers that happen about 5 times a year at certain dates.
Right.
So you with me?
Which meteor showers are those? Which ones are you referring to? Do you mean the Perseus meteor shower that happens once a year, or?
Yeah. So the ones that happen once a year, like you've got I think it's called the Pleiades, that happens once a year around August, and then you've got about 4 of them or 5 of them, and they happen once a year. And what I don't get is the fact that we travel, through space at millions of miles an hour, and we circle the sun at thousands of miles per hour, and we also spin. And while we're doing all those 3 motions, we once a year catch up, so all the meteor showers catch up with us, and do their thing, do their meteor shower. So what happens? Do they reset themselves every year, or they got an unlimited supply of meteors and they just go off once a year at this time?
So the meteors and everything that we see in the sky all the time, they are part of our solar system. You know, they are our entire solar system is orbiting the galaxy, and within that solar system, there's individual orbits. And
Yeah.
the meteors don't catch up with us. But when we see meteors, we are moving through them. Like the Perseus meteor shower, there's a
Yeah.
comet. There's a comet that orbits our sun, right? And just once
Yep.
a year, our orbit goes through the tail that is left from that comet. But the comet is so large, and there's so many billions of bits of ice and particle and dust that had come from it, that the sun would probably burn out of hydrogen before that comet ran out of material to create the Perseid meteor showers. And it's the same with other meteor showers that there's belts and stuff that we move through, but there's so many of them, billions and billions of these rocks that, once a year us passing through them and knocking a few of them into our orbit and then just being destroyed by our atmosphere, it would take longer than the sun would live to exhaust that supply of meteors.
Okay. Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in the sun being hydrogen. I mean, how do we know that?
Spectroscopy is the best way.
Right.
We can measure the byproducts that come from our sun. So it's hydrogen, and there's two hydrogen atoms, and they get squished together with such force that they combine and become another heavier element. In this case, helium. But there's bits left over from that, right? And we can see the bits that are left over: alpha rays, gamma rays, a visible light spectrum, heat. We can see all that stuff. And then we can know, right, those particular things that we can see with spectroscopy means that is byproducts of a nuclear reaction from this particular element.
Right.
So we have sent things there, probes and stuff to measure it. We understand how nuclear fusion would work and what would come from it, and we can measure those byproducts of fusion.
All right. Well, there's a few problems I have with the heliocentric model too. Like that we've sent things up into space. I don't think we can escape into space. I don't think we can do that. And
Why not?
like you've got the propulsion. So to propel something, it has to propel against a friction. But space is a vacuum. So what does the starship?
Right. Okay.
Propel against?
That's pretty simple. So, a rocket has a combustion chamber, okay? And when the fuel inside that combustion chamber combusts, it expands and causes pressure. And when you've got, one side of it is open, all the exhaust is coming out, but the other side is a solid thing. So that expansion of the gas inside the combustion chamber is causing a pressure on the inside of the combustion chamber, which is what is making the rocket move forward. And then, because of Newton's first law of motion, you have stuff come out the other side. You don't need something to push off. That's just one way of propulsion. The way that a rocket works is by using Newton's laws of motion, knowing that if something has been made to move, unless there's something to stop it, then it's going to keep going. Rockets don't push off of the air. They push off of themselves by creating an explosion inside the combustion chamber.
No, fair enough.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just I just don't think it's happening because of the so many flaws. Like there was one of the astronauts who went to the moon didn't even know about the Van Allen belts. And
which astronaut didn't know about them?
No, I can't remember his name. It was one of them, one of the later ones. I wish I could remember his name, but he said that what are the Van Allen belts? And then he got told, he goes, oh well, we must have gone through them. And there's just so many things that with the moon landing that fall short. So why haven't they gone back there? And then you've got the things about the James Webb Telescope. Space telescope, which is seeing galaxies that are millions and millions and billions of miles away for the first time, but they still can't zoom in on the moon landings on the moon.
Right. Okay. So that was quite a lot.
Yeah. Sorry.
What was the first thing you said was, so the Van Allen radiation belts, to be honest, the astronauts that are there don't need to know everything about it. Some astronauts are there for a specific job, payload specialists. There might be a bit of equipment that needs somebody, so they train them to go to space. They don't need to know about what the rocket's going through. They've got very little to do with that. But then again, the Van Allen radiation belts also aren't really a problem. Most of it is alpha rays, which can be blocked with a bit of paper, and they spend so little time in it that it's not going to do them any damage. The next thing you said was, why haven't we gone back there? Simple, political and financial reasons. After 1972, they stopped funding NASA a lot. They took a lot of the funding away. They'd been to the moon a bunch of times. There was nothing new they could really do at that time. So the funding for that in particular dried up, and they decided to focus on things like doing low Earth orbit with the ISS and learning more about being in space. But they are going back. You've got the Artemis missions, which are starting to go ahead now with the pre-launch rockets and everything. That is not only going back to the moon, but is planning a manned base there within the next few years. So now that there's private enterprise and stuff like SpaceX and everything that can help with this, like by the time NASA send people to the moon, SpaceX and other companies will have basically already set up the the stuff there for them.
Well, the reason I don't believe they're going back there, I don't think that'll happen. They'll make some excuse, maybe space junk, or this sort of thing, because even with space junk, they say, and not space junk, but the satellites. They say there's over 8,000 satellites, but
space is big.
At the light speed, I know it's they're spread out, but the ISS has never captured any satellite, and then
the ISS, what? Sorry.
The ISS has never captured any satellite in its live feed.
Yeah, it has.
And there are thousands of them.
Yeah, I've literally done a video pointing out all the times that you've seen satellites from the ISS.
All right, I'll have to watch that one.
Yeah, the ISS being a satellite itself as well.
I don't think they're, well, for starters, when they did go there, some of the Apollo missions, the later ones, they spent like 3 days on the moon. And I don't see how that, basically a piece of crap could support life for 3 days on the moon, because it wasn't the lunar module wasn't didn't have like an airlock. Just when they opened it, everything, they're exposing their atmosphere to the moon's atmosphere.
They didn't spend that long. They didn't spend like 3 days and like completely on the moon. They spent a lot less than that. And the LEM was there to do a specific job to get them to and from the Earth, the moon's orbit. But there's no issues with. You're just saying you don't believe this is going to happen. You don't believe this happened without really giving any reason. You need to look at the engineering specifications and go, oh well, does that say that it can do this? And the other thing you said about was why, with the James Webb Telescope, how can we see galaxies that are billions of light years away, but not see the flag on the moon? Well, it's all to do with what you can focus on. The James Webb Telescope couldn't even focus on the moon. It's too close, But they have seen the landing site. China's orbiters around the moon have taken pictures of it and shown where the landing site was. It's just there's no real cameras that exist on Earth that have the resolution to be able to look at the moon. The James Webb Telescope is designed to look billions of years into the past.
Yeah, well, there's a gap there. So you've got the James Webb can see, further than anything can ever see before, but there's nothing that can zoom in on the moon landings. It's like
like I said, there's very different types of cameras. Earthbound technology, they don't have cameras that could zoom into something that small. The angular resolution just wouldn't be possible. The James Webb Telescope is designed to look into the distance and see certain wavelengths of light. It's not just a normal camera with really good zoom. There's a lot. It's a scientific instrumentation that takes images in very different ways to just snapping a picture. But again, there has been images of the landing site being given to us by China.
Yeah, well, I've looked into them as well, and they don't like zoom in very far at all. They're quite a way off. It's like the satellites that are circular, that are orbiting the Earth, can zoom right into a letterbox or a car in the driveway.
No, not really.
In Google on Google Earth, Google
Yeah,
Earth you can
Google
zoom
Earth
in on.
isn't Google Earth isn't just a bunch of satellites looking. It's
Yeah, they have drones and
as
they have
if you're looking at Google Earth, when you're looking out really out far, that's a satellite image, and then as it zooms in, that would be like high altitude aircraft images and stuff. It's not just
yeah.
taken from satellites in space all the way. That's not how Google Earth works. No, but there isn't
Well, how they
like
do
there isn't like Men in
how they
Black
do
satellites
Google
that
Earth.
can just watch people from space. That's not really
Yeah.
things that are that
But
doesn't
how they
really
do
exist.
Google Moon then?
Again, they've taken images of the moon, they've scanned it.
Yeah,
they
but you,
they
but
know what's
you can
there,
go.
and then you can represent that in a 3D model. It's not like a Google Moon
Yeah.
isn't a live image. It's information that has been put together.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you can Google, because of the height, you could, like a drone or a plane, whatever they use on Earth, you can zoom into, something like a letterbox on Google Earth, but on Google Moon, they can't do that sort of thing. And then you've got also
But
Google
again,
Mars.
Google Earth and Google Moon aren't live satellites showing you an image as you're zooming in. It's a bunch of pictures that have been taken and put together. All the stuff from Google Moon is from the satellites that have been orbiting the moon and doing radar scans of the surface of the moon. And then it's represented in a computer model. That's not live images.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they can zoom in on Google Earth to something like a mailbox, but they can't when
But
on the
no,
moon.
again,
Although
they
you
can't
can,
zoom in on Google. Google Earth doesn't zoom in on anything. It's not a satellite in space zooming in, right? It's a bunch of
yeah,
pictures put together. And as you zoom in on Google Earth, it's different images. As you get closer and closer, you go below the clouds. It's not a satellite image anymore. That's now a picture from a high altitude plane or something. Then as you get even
yeah,
closer, that'd be images from balloons or something. It's
or
not
of a
just
car.
one image from satellite that you zoom in on. That's not how Google Earth works.
Yeah. Well, I when I use Google Moon, you can zoom into places very closely, but
Yeah, but
there's
again, that's not
still
real time. That's images that have been put together and are allowing you to zoom in on a model. They've had satellites
yeah,
orbiting the moon for decades and decades, taking measurements of the surface topography, and then they've put that together in a computer program that allows you to look around. It's not real time images.
yeah. Well, I have a problem with satellites in that I don't think that they're existing as we're told, because I mean, for example,
You can
you've got
measure them.
over 8,000 just going around Earth, but some are geostationary and some are orbiting, and it's just
Yeah,
sort of
well,
random
geostationary is
as
still
to which one's
orbiting,
where.
but it's just orbiting the same speed as the Earth is rotating. Geostationary
Mm.
orbits are very particular things and have to be in a very specific place, like 21,000 miles away from Earth, specifically directly above the equator. There's only one place that you can geosynchrony orbit with Earth. But then there's also satellites orbiting at many, many different altitudes, you know?
Yeah,
Like, when you say you don't think they exist as we've been told, what evidence do you have of
yeah,
that? Because we can literally see when we've got apps on our phones that can see when the satellites are going to be overhead, and then we can go and look at them. You know, Red's Rhetoric literally measured the distance to and the speed of the ISS himself. These are things
yeah.
that are empirical facts. So what do you mean when you say they're not as we've been told? In what way?
Well, I question the fact that so you can see the ISS with the naked eye. Um, so we're told.
Well,
And
yeah, well,
something
with
does
the
get
naked eye,
across with
you
the
can
naked
see
eye.
the light reflecting from the solar panels.
Yeah, so you can see that, and that's at say 400 odd kilometers away. But a jumbo jet that's only 11 kilometers up is very hard to see with the naked eye, and it's only half the size.
Yeah, again, you're not actually seeing the ISS with your naked eye. You're seeing light reflecting from the solar panels, as it's above the Earth. You can't, your eyes don't have the angular resolution to make out the ISS on its own. But the light reflecting from it, the light's always going to travel. So that's what you see when you look in the sky and you can see that dot with your naked eyes. That's the ISS. But then you get a telescope or a really good camera and zoom in, and you can make out what looks like some kind of TIE fighter.
Yeah, that's right, and it's several hundred kilometers more than the jumbo jet. And a jumbo jet, if you zoom in on, it's only it's just a speck, and it's only half the size.
But it depends how much you zoom in and with what camera. If you zoomed in with the cameras and telescopes that are looking at the ISS, then that jumbo would look a lot bigger. That's just how it works. But again, you can. So the way it was done was there was two people looking at the ISS at the same time with their own cameras and telescopes, right? And they were about a mile apart. So they could watch the ISS transit the moon from their two different locations. And that allowed them to get the base of a triangle and do some parallax measurements and actually use trigonometry to measure the altitude of the ISS. And not only that, but then from looking at the videos and stuff that they made and counting how many frames it took to cross the moon, they could then calculate the speed of the ISS. And these are things that you can were verified empirically without any input from NASA or anything. And the data that they gathered from it matched what NASA said. Triangles don't lie. Maths doesn't lie. If that's what you've measured, then that's how far away it is.
Yeah, well, I have an issue. It's funny you should bring up Parallax. I have issues with Parallax, and that's one of the issues I have with the heliocentric model, because Parallax, I understand how it works, using trigonometry and Pythagoras, but you needed an initial measurement from Earth. So the first measurement, how do they do the first measurement? Because you need, to triangulate, you need to have a measurement from Earth and a measurement to a star, say, or the sun. First.
What are you specifically
so they needed to have,
asking about? Like measurement to what? To a star?
Yeah, so the stars, they measure the stars because they've got, they can use parallax with other measurements that they know, but they have to know one first. How do they figure out the very first measurement to a star?
Well,
or to the sun?
Well, to the sun's pretty easy. You can bounce radar off the sun. That's been done for decades. And that's a pretty reliable thing. We know the speed of light. Bouncing radar off the sun tells us exactly how far away it is. You can also calculate the distance to the sun from the transit of Mercury or Venus.
But they didn't have radar. Sorry.
Who are we talking about here?
Yeah. Well, they didn't have radars.
Who
first,
didn't
that's
have
why
radar?
The sun,
who are you talking about?
Well, the ancients who measured the distance.
Oh, the Greeks. Oh, well, that's easy. The way they did it was by using the transit of Mercury or Venus across the sun and doing something very similar to what I described with the ISS. View it from two different areas, and then you can use the known distance to Mercury or Venus or in the known size of those to give your parallax measurements and then calculate the distance to the sun. And they did it pretty accurately, thousands of years ago.
Yeah. Well, that actually brings up another problem I have with the heliocentric model, is that that Mercury and Venus, and I've modelled this a number of times, and I don't want it to be so, but Mercury and Venus, you shouldn't be able to see from night.
Yes, you should. There's no problem with that at all.
Because you're looking towards the sun.
Yeah, but the universe is three-dimensional.
Well, their orbit
right?
is close to the sun.
Right. This is a very easy thing. I can just draw this out for you.
All right.
So let's say we've got the sun here, and then we've got one orbit, we've got Mercury over here, another orbit, we've got Venus over here, and we've got another orbit, and we've got Earth over here. Right, so let me zoom in so you can see this. So this is the sun here, okay? And you got 1 planet, 2 planet, 3 planet. So what you're saying is that because, you know, nighttime is looking this way, we shouldn't be able to see these things at night, right?
Yeah. And you can model that in a 3D.
Here's the thing, right? From that position on Earth, looking straight up, you're still going to be able to see these things. You can only ever see Mercury and Venus when its sun's just going down or when it's just coming up. And if you are here on Earth, just when it's becoming night or just when it's becoming day, because space is 3D, you'll be able to see Mercury and Venus when, for you, it is just becoming night. If you're over here, right, and it's the middle of the night, of course, you're never going to be able to see Mercury or Venus. But if you're right here, as it's becoming night or day, Mercury and Venus appear very low to the horizon, exactly as it shows. I can show it even better with a 3D model I've got on my computer, but that should make it easy enough to understand why when it's just becoming nighttime or when the sun's just coming up, you can see Mercury and Venus when they're in the right place in their orbit. That make sense?
All right, well, I've modeled it. Yeah, I've modeled it 3D and it doesn't work.
I mean, I've just modeled it there for you and it works perfectly.
In 2D, yeah. But
yeah, and there's no reason that wouldn't work in 3D. In fact, 3D makes it even easier to understand. The fact is that these things will be low on the horizon at night.
But you're still looking towards the sun.
Yeah, of course you are. You're looking towards the sun. That's, you know, you can see the sun setting or just rising, and it's going to appear very low on the horizon, close to where the sun is rising or setting. Exactly. So if you're looking over here, right, for you, just here, it's sunset, right? So the sun is just setting along this line, right? But these things here are going to be very low to the horizon as the sun sets. Obviously, that line should be straight.
The problem you've got with that is, now I understand what you're saying. I've tried it 3D, and I've drawn it out in 2D. The problem with that is you're still looking towards the night side of Mercury and the night side of Venus.
But that's fine. You're still able to see them in the sky because light's reflecting off of them, right? So there's going to be light coming from the sun, right? So there's going to be light coming from the sun, right? So this is the path of light. So it's coming from the sun, it's bouncing off of Mercury, and then it's coming all the way to the person on the horizon. Yeah,
but it's not bouncing off the whole sphere of Mercury.
No, and you don't see the entirety of. You see it as a phase. If you actually get cameras or telescopes and zoom in, you don't see the entire thing. You see this portion of it, that the light is reflecting off.
No, but you see a whole sphere.
You don't. That's the thing. You actually don't. What you see is a star, right? A twinkle. But if you zoom in on it, it's a phase of Mercury. You don't see an entire sphere of Mercury.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that you should bring the sparkle up, because that's another thing with the heliocentric model that
you don't understand.
I think it goes wrong. Is that so? For example, Mars, with the naked eye, shines in the night sky. It shines and sparkles like a star. But then when they're close to it, it loses its luster.
Well, that sparkle is just the light coming through our atmosphere. That's it. It's not really sparkling.
Yeah.
It's just the disturbances in our atmosphere, refraction, pollution, clouds, whatever. It makes it look like it's not really sparkling.
Yeah, but there are pictures apparently from space of Mars where there's no atmosphere and it's sparkling like a sun.
I would have to ask for that because I thoroughly disagree that picture would exist.
Yeah, well, there's a picture I could find on my phone. Well, I can send it to you later. But I could find on my phone with the moon and Earth and Earth is sparkling like really brightly. It's actually got an array around it. But then when
Well,
you're
yeah, that
close to
just
them,
depends
it
on
doesn't sparkle.
what. That just depends on the exposure settings when the picture was taken, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you can make anything look like it's glowing if there's, light reflecting off of it, depending on the exposure setting, and the focus depth of the picture. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
when you see a picture like that, what you need to do is find out if it's supposed to look like that before going, oh, I don't think it should.
yeah. Well, I've tried doing that. I don't want it to be true that we're being lied to, but it just doesn't like. We'll go back to Mercury and Venus when you're talking about how you see only like a shiver of them. Then they should be seen as a sliver or as a half, as a half sphere, because
They are when you zoom in
you're
on
not.
them. That's what I'm saying. If you zoom in, rather than just looking at it like a
With the
star
naked
with
eye.
angular resolution that you can't see, if you actually zoom in with a telescope or something, you see it's not like a full sphere. You don't see the entire thing. It'll be like a crescent of it or something.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But we don't. We see the
But no,
whole lot.
no, we do. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what we see. We don't see the entire thing. When you zoom in on it, you just see a crescent. You don't see the entire thing. When we see Mercury and Venus just above the horizon, as the sun's setting or the sun's rising, right? If you zoom in on them, you don't see the entire thing. It's just a crescent.
When I've done it with my naked eye, they're a whole sphere.
Well, your naked eye isn't going to be able to make it out. Your naked eye would just see some of the light reflecting on it. Your naked eye wouldn't have the angular resolution available to be able to see it in its entirety. That's why you need to get a telescope or something and zoom in. What your eye
Yeah.
will see is a dot of light, which is what you expect to see when you're not able to resolve it with your eyes.
Yeah. Well,
Why am I having this?
we'll have to agree to disagree because I can't.
I don't
I
like agreeing
can't.
to disagree when it's quite easy to explain, and I've just explained it. That is a fact.
Yeah.
You will not find any zoomed in pictures of Mercury and Venus when they're visible at twilight that show the entire thing. They show a phase of the planets.
Okay.
This is just a fact.
All right. Okay. And then we have the. Okay, so one of the reasons I don't subscribe to the heliocentric model is the fact that no one has, even though the moon landings I believe are a hoax, no one has, no other space agency has tried to disprove them. And people say, well, then there's millions of people who, well, not millions, but thousands of people who have kept the secret. But when you look into it, there really seems to be that they're all in on it anyway. Like all the space agencies are in on it.
In what way?
Well, for example, China is supposedly on the far side of the moon, and that's
The rover,
convenient
yeah.
because
Yeah, the rover is, yeah.
well, that's convenient because if they're on this side of the moon
Convenient in
these
what way?
days, we'd be able to see on the side facing us. We'd be able to see them, and they'd be able to
No,
point out the
I
flag.
explained to you we wouldn't be able to just see them from Earth. That they're too small to resolve from Earth. The cameras to do that don't exist on Earth. So and also we have orbiters. There's orbiters going around the moon that has seen the rover.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I wish I could find photos of that. I can't find any photos of the. You have to send me of the moon of the rover being seen.
you can see the trail that's made.
You can see the trail that it's made. Yeah, I've seen some things that show the trails and even footprints. But the thing is that they're way too big. They're just too big for the scale of the moon. The moon is
What do you base
a
that claim
quarter
on?
of Earth. Is the moon a quarter of Earth or an eighth of Earth?
It's about 1/6
quarter,
of Earth.
isn't it?
It's about 1/6 of Earth.
The 1/6. So it's 1/6 of Earth. But when you look at these supposed tracks that they've picked up, they're pretty big compared to, like, if they were on Earth, they'd just be a dot. But these ones are a lot. They almost go to the horizon of the moon and back again, just in that shot. So it's pretty big.
It's because they've zoomed in on the area that the rover was moving. It's not like a picture of the entire moon. They've zoomed in on the area of operation of the rover on the moon. But it's not an entire picture of the moon with tracks covering the entire face of it. It's a tiny portion of the moon that they've taken a photograph of up close. I mean,
yeah.
What?
But why can't they do that for the flag then?
They have done. The orbiters have taken pictures of the flag.
I'd like to see them.
Cool. It's there's a website called Google. You can find them there.
On Google.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've tried.
I must have not tried very hard, to be honest, because they're quite easy to find.
Well, not the ones of the flag. I've tried that a lot of times.
From the orbiter, yeah. There's lots of pictures of the moon landing site with the flag and everything that's left there from orbiters. They're maybe your Google's broken. I don't know. Maybe you're using the Wayback Machine instead of Google or something. I'm not entirely sure.
Mm-hmm.
Limit break in the chat right now. There's 500 people watching. Limit break in the chat says found it. It was the first result.
Okay. Well, I'll have to look again.
Yeah. See, I don't want to be rude here, Quentin, but the reason that you have the problems with the heliocentric model exists purely because of ignorance of basic physics and engineering mixed with quite a lot of personal incredulity. I'm guessing that you haven't studied physics and you're not an engineer, right?
No.
Yet you seem to want to kind of disprove engineering principles that have been, valid for decades and entire industries are based around, like how rockets move and stuff. That the knowledge of how a rocket moves through space is quite a basic thing that you don't really have to be an engineer for. And because you didn't understand how a rocket moves through space, in your head that made you think that a space travel can't be possible. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I'm not doing that. I want it to be possible, but I just and it's not that I can't, I'm incredulous about it. It's just that, okay, so another really a good example that I doubt is you have, is it Mike McCandles? Or you have one guy, and they've only done it once. They've got, and you can get video of it, or time-lapse video of it. And the time-lapse video shows an astronaut shooting off the shuttle using the it should be human, but they always use man rather than human. The man maneuvering unit from the space shuttle. So the shuttle to orbit has to go at above 17,000 miles per hour, right?
From the shuttle.
About that, isn't it?
Sorry, say that again.
For the space shuttle to orbit, it's got to go beyond above 17,000 miles per hour. Is that right?
No, 17,000 miles an hour is just the orbital speed of the ISS.
Oh, okay, so the shuttle has to go a similar speed to orbit.
Well, if it was to match the ISS's orbit, yeah.
Yeah, well, it has to go a phenomenal speed to orbit anyway.
Yeah, it has to have a relative speed to the ground below them of about 17,000 miles an hour, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going that fast, and then, it's like, you have a motorcycle on the back of a ute, and the ute's going 80 miles per hour, and it launches off the back of the ute, the motorbike. Then to catch back up to the ute, it would have to go faster than the ute. Right? Are you following?
Why would it lose the if the shuttle's going the same speed as the ISS? Why would it all of a sudden not be going as fast as the ISS? What's stopping it going the same speed?
No, it has to go the same speed to orbit. I'm
Yeah.
saying that this guy used the manned maneuvering unit to launch himself away from the shuttle into space, and the issues with it are, on the video, there's no
What he,
stars,
what,
and
what,
this
what,
big
what, sorry, are
massive.
you talking about that shot of the astronaut just kind of floating there on his own?
Yeah. Now,
Yeah, I mean, that astronaut was moving the same speed as as whatever he was outside of, you know.
that's the shuttle. Yeah.
Here's an important thing about motion is that all motion's relative, that there is no absolute motion. When that astronaut was attached to the thing that was going really fast, once he then detached, he still kept that momentum. And then all he had to do was change his relative distance away, whilst conservation of momentum dealt with the rest. That's kind of a very basic law of physics, is that momentum is always conserved. There's no reason he would have
Yeah.
changed his speed relative to the thing that he was on.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing as the bicycle motorbike going off the ute. It'll still be going. There'll be a relative speed it'll be going compared to the ute, but there's also a relative speed that he'll be going when he
Yeah, but
left the ute.
that motorbike going off the back of the pickup truck is also going to then hit the
Yeah,
ground and have friction to deal with. It's going to have the atmosphere that's causing friction. You know, if that pickup
yeah,
truck was in a completely frictionless environment in 3D space and the bike moved off the back of it, it's just
yeah,
going to move the same speed. It's not going to fall behind and then have to then catch up again. If there's no friction or anything to make it change speed, it's just going to maintain the same speed.
yeah. But he's still going to have to catch back up to it.
No, because he never fell behind it, so there's no catching up needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I
So
have
that's
the
called
issue
the
with, because
conservation.
they
That's called the conservation of momentum. It's a very basic principle.
well, what and then, the other issue is obviously that that I have is, if we're in a, we've got air on Earth, and we have all the atmosphere and different gases in the atmosphere, and while I'm on that, carbon dioxide only takes up 0.04% of the atmosphere. Yeah, that's another issue
Right.
anyway. I
Okay.
mean,
We'll
it's the
deal, we'll
one
deal with that in a
causing.
sec. But let me just quickly show you this. Uh, so this trampoline is moving the same speed as this person, but then this person comes off of it,
Yeah,
right? But then they don't just fall behind it; they're maintaining the same speed. So there's no reason that when that astronaut left the thing that he was on, he would have then fell behind. He would have stayed the same speed as it,
yeah.
because that's the conservation of momentum. Kind of high
Well,
school
okay.
physics stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I
Sorry.
stand
So what did
corrected.
you say then about? I don't know. What was the next thing you said?
Oh, that was the big thing that, and some people think I'm a flat earther because of it. Is that, we live in, we have our atmosphere, and it gets less as we go up higher and higher, to the vacuum of
Yeah.
space. But why is the vacuum not taking all of our atmosphere?
Vacuums don't suck.
They don't suck.
No. No. Like when you turn on your vacuum to clean your house, it's not sucking. It's removing pressure inside the vacuum, which the atmosphere is then pushing stuff into. That's how vacuums work. The way you got to think about it is, just imagine empty space with some gas in it, right? That gas,
Mm-hmm.
because of gravity, is going to move towards the Earth and stick to the Earth because of gravity. There's nothing pulling it away from Earth. The only pull, the only sucking that is happening is Earth's gravitational acceleration, pulling that gas towards it. The vacuum of space
Yeah.
doesn't suck. Pressure is pushed into a vacuum. That's how this is it's a very common misconception that people think that
Yeah.
vacuums suck. They don't. A vacuum is just an area that's void of something that pressure is pushed into.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to, they've got the pictures of them on Mars, and that's another thing that I doubt of the heliocentric model, because, and it's not because I'm
Pictures of what on
incredulous or
Mars?
anything. Well, not because I'm incredulous. They've got like a helicopter on Mars now,
Yeah.
and all that sort of thing. Well, it's not because I'm incredulous. I'm just saying, well, hang on, they can go to Mars, but the moon's too hard to get back to at
Well, they
this
didn't
stage.
send people to the moon, did they? They sent robots to the moon. To Mars. The thing is, since the Apollo mission, since the last humans went to the Mars, since the last humans went to the moon, there's been loads of robots, loads of rovers and stuff sent to the moon. So, that's no problem. But then they've also sent rovers and other robots to Mars. They've never sent a person to Mars because that is quite hard. Elon Musk is working on that. But sending, rovers and helicopters isn't a problem because they don't have to keep them alive.
Yeah.
It's not really comparable, is it? You can't say, well, how come they stopped sending humans to the moon, but they sent a rover to Mars? Well, humans aren't robots.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing about
Apart
the
from
rovers
Gary
that they
Weber
show,
in my chat, of course.
but there's so many pictures of the rovers and that, and it's like,
Yeah.
you wonder who
There's a
took
camera on the
the
rovers.
picture, but more than that,
all the pictures of the rovers are taken by the rover's selfie stick, where it just kind of removes, just like normal selfie sticks. The software on your phone removes the image of the stick. All the images of the rover that you've seen on Mars are taken with cameras that are attached to arms that are on that rover, but then it just you can't see the arm because of whatever they've done. But it's not like there's another robot up there taking pictures of the rover. That's just cameras that are on the rover taking pictures of itself.
Where on earth do we have the technology that the rover seems to have, and even the helicopter, even more so? Where do we have that they can continually go for a decade without, having to somehow get serviced or refueled? Or
They've only got a limited life. For instance, the helicopter, they only thought it would fly like 4 times. The fact that it's still flying, they're like, this is amazing. We didn't expect it to go this long. They've got solar packs to recharge themselves. They have periods where they don't work because there's not enough energy coming from the sun during dust storms or whatever. There is servicing that the rover can do to itself. The rover has self-diagnostic and self-repair functions. If one of the wheels broke on the rover, it has the ability to adapt to that and keep going. But they put these things there knowing that they're never going to be able to go and fix them if something goes wrong, and that's just part of the mission. And which is why they generally give them a pretty short lifespan. They say, well, that rover is going to go for maybe 2 years. But then 5 years later, when it's still going, they're just really happy, But when you have a look at the rovers, they're covered in crap, and there's bits of the wheel missing, and a part of the drill bit was broken, so they couldn't use that anymore. Simple. But billions of dollars went into designing these things, right? Billions of dollars went into designing these things. A typical drone or a remote control car that you buy for your kids or whatever, billions of dollars didn't go into designing that. That's probably a few £1,000s of research and development from a toy company. These are very different things. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the issues I have too with the heliocentric model is, I think NASA are about $50 or $60 billion a day, but we've still got people starving.
60 million roughly a day. Yeah, and there's lots of people starving, but 60 million a day isn't going to stop those people starving, though. That's the thing. That 60 million a day is what the American government has decided they want to give to NASA so that they can research stuff in space, because making us a multi-planet species is an important thing. If we have more resources, then maybe we can stop people starving. But there's not enough resources on this planet. But in the asteroid belt, there's enough resources that we would never need water, that we would never need for materials to build stuff, to make harvesting easier. So doing research in space and how to survive in space and how to go out further is a vitally important thing for humanity, and it will even help those people in the world today that are starving. But at the same time, that 60 million a day isn't going to fix those issues that exist over there. What we need is continued improvements in technology, more resources available. That doesn't exist on Earth. Space is where that shit is.
Yeah, well, again, I don't subscribe to the space because of all the doubts that I have. But
Again, with respect, that is personal incredulity. That is literally personal incredulity. You don't think, you've got doubts, therefore you don't think it's possible. But it doesn't change the fact that it happens. That it's if you decided to apply yourself, you could be involved in space travel somehow. I know Australia's got its own space program. It's not just America, it's not just NASA, it's not just SpaceX. Even me in Scotland, we're building a space launch base here. It's exciting,
Oh. Well, I think the world is basically forever anyway. Like, it goes for eternity.
What do you mean?
And the world will goes for all eternity. So we can get eternal life on this plane, or we lose it. But that's more of a
eternal
religious thing.
Oh, okay. We're talking philosophy. I thought you were talking physical reality.
Yeah.
No. But Earth is a sphere that's rotating and orbiting. These things are empirically verified. Gravity is a thing. Gravity is real. Space is real. Rockets are real. Space travel. It's all real, and it's all very easy to verify yourself.
Well, it's like the Big Bang. How do they know the Big Bang happened? Because it's just a theory. And
the evidence points to it. That and that's something that James Webb's helping us with, is to see the Big Bang. You can look at everything that exists in the universe and how it's expanding, right? And you can model it backwards, and it shows that at some point it would have been a single point of singularity. And if we assume for a sec that there was a tiny singularity that contained all the energy in the universe that exists today, and for some reason, no one knows why, it started expanding, right? That's what the Big Bang is. For the first several million years, it was really hot and dense, and light couldn't travel through it very well because it was so compact and so hot. But as it cooled down and expanded a bit and became less opaque, light could start to travel, right? And that's what at that point, it's what we call the recombination event. That's when light was first able to move through the universe freely, right? And we can see the point that happened. That's called the cosmic microwave background radiation, right? That is evidence that there was some point where light was starting to travel, but before that point, it was like a soup that light couldn't get through. But then when space cooled down enough, when it expanded enough, light started to move around, and we can see the remnants of that happening. We can see the recombination event in the cosmic microwave background radiation of the universe. And it gives us evidence that the Big Bang happened, and that's what science does. It looks at evidence, and we can do experiments on how light travels and, the way that the space is expanding. And if there's no way to disprove the theory, then, it's accepted in science. And there's no way to disprove that the Big Bang happened, because that's what the cosmic microwave background radiation is.
No, but there's still no proof to say it did happen. I mean,
there is proof. That's what the maths shows. In science, proof exists in the data, in the maths, and we can see the cosmic microwave background radiation, and we can see what that is a result of.
Yeah, but what was before the Big Bang?
Who knows? No idea. Science doesn't claim to know. And that's a question that we're completely incapable of answering, as far as I'm concerned. We have no way of knowing what happened before the universe existed. The favorite theory I have is that the universe is cyclical, and before the Big Bang, there was a big crunch. So all of space contracted into this singularity. And then for some reason, it started expanding again. We don't know why. Nobody knows why the Big Bang happened. Nobody knows what existed before. No one knows what's outside the universe. These aren't questions that we are able to even really consider. All we can say is that there was a point in time when all of the energy in the universe existed in a singularity. That's what we can say.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't prescribe to that, because the fact of the matter, you can't create something out of nothing.
Correct. And the Big Bang
we
doesn't
don't-
claim that to be the case. As I just explained, the Big Bang
Yeah.
was the point where all the energy that exists in the universe today, it still existed back then, but just in one infinitesimally small singularity. No energy was ever created or destroyed. It all existed at the beginning of time, at the start of the Big Bang. So it doesn't violate the first law of thermodynamics. It doesn't violate the fact that matter cannot be created or destroyed. Energy can't be created or destroyed. All the energy that exists now was there at the Big Bang.
Yeah, but what was before the Big Bang? No one can answer.
Yeah, we don't know, and we don't claim to know, and that's not a question that's really important to science because it, doesn't change what we understand about the universe. We can see the point where the universe started and work from there. It really doesn't matter what was before or why it happened.
Well, I think that if they don't know what happened beforehand, then the Big Bang Theory is still a theory. And that's why they call it the Big Bang Theory.
No, I don't think you understand what theory means in science. In science, theory isn't the same as the colloquial usage of theory. It's not just a guess. In science, a theory encompasses all the knowledge we have about something, all the mathematical proofs, all the laws, all the experiments, all the scientific papers. Everything that we understand about something is what exists within the theory. That's why the theory of evolution it's not just this is a guess. The theory of evolution is all the evidence that exists in the world about evolution. The same as music theory. It doesn't mean that music is a theory. Music theory is just everything we know about music, how intonations work, how chords work together, how different vibrations and frequencies. It doesn't mean that music is a theory. It's just all of our knowledge about something. And the Big Bang Theory isn't saying it's just a guess. The Big Bang Theory is all of our knowledge about the Big Bang, which exists, all the evidence we have, all the experiments that have been conducted, all the images, all the data. There's a very big difference in science as to what the word theory means as to how it's used colloquial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yet, they remain theories because theories can be advanced upon.
Well, in science, everything can be advanced upon. Science is transitional. Science never claims to be complete or know everything. Science is about gathering information as we go. It's a transitional thing. It never ever claims to be complete. So if someone comes along with better understanding and better explanation, then that enhances our knowledge. That's just how science is. We never say, well, boom, science has given you the complete answers. What we understand right now a bit about the Big Bang is what all the evidence we have lets us understand. But in years to come, there may be a better explanation. Maybe a different way of describing what happened, more evidence that suggests a different thing. We don't know. But at the moment, all the evidence suggests that this is the case. We can see that the Big Bang happened because we can see remnants of the recombination event.
Yeah. So how did they know before they were exploring space? How can they tell from the ground the position of the planets? Like that Mercury is closer to the sun and Venus is closer to the sun.
Parallax,
Mars
observing the way that they orbit, how fast the orbit is, the size of the planet. Like I said, parallax measurements are a big thing. For instance, Neptune. Do you know how Neptune was discovered? This is the good one.
No.
Right, so they were watching the planets for ages, and they were watching the orbit of Uranus, right? And they noticed that when Uranus got to a certain point in its orbit, it did something weird, which wasn't explained by Newton's law of gravitation and Kepler's planetary motion laws and everything. It didn't quite fit, right? Except it did.
Why? What did they do?
What they did was they did a bit of maths, and they figured out that if there was another massive body exerting a gravitational force on Uranus that was in this particular spot, then that would explain this weird movement of Uranus during its orbit, right? So they did the maths. They said, okay, so there should be something that's about this big, and we should be able to see it here. And then they looked there, and they found Neptune. because of our
Okay.
understanding of the orbits and how gravitational attraction works. You know,
Yeah.
so
And
these
the
things are.
sizes, like you were saying, the size, like how, like it's not that I'm incredulous. I'm saying that really, how can they see how big Jupiter is compared to Earth from way back in the day?
Again, by parallax measurements, comparing it to the
Like,
movement of distant stars. If you because all
the
of the
problem with
stars are right, so because all of the stars are so far away, for most practical uses, they can be considered the same distance away. So for stuff
yeah,
within our solar system, we can use that as a basis for parallax to figure out how far away things are and how big they are based on that. And then we
how do
can
they
do,
do
and
the
then we
first
can do
measurement?
things like look at the orbits of
Yeah,
them and how they interact with other things around them, and do the maths about gravity, which can also give us an idea of how big they are. Back in the day, thousands of years ago, when the Greeks were doing their initial observations and stuff, the majority of it was assumptions and guesses, right? But assumptions
yeah,
and guesses that over time have been verified to be correct. Back in the thousands of years ago,
yeah.
there probably wasn't a very accurate way to determine the size of a planet. But now we can verify that their guesses were pretty much right.
Yeah, but how? What I'm saying is, how do they do the first parallax measurement?
Honestly, let's say Venus, for instance. They basically assumed Venus was the same size as Earth, right? And they did a lot of their calculations based on that assumption. Luckily, that assumption's turned out to be pretty much accurate. Venus is called Earth's twin because it's practically the same, with mass and size, right?
Yeah,
But one of the first things they did was make an assumption, which seemed like a pretty good assumption to them at the time, based on all their observations, and they based a lot of things on that. But over the centuries, we've been able to verify these assumptions with better observations and experiments and stuff.
fair enough. Have you? You're very quiet. Did you mute yourself or something?
No? Testing, 1, 2. No, I'm coming through fine.
No, I can hear you. You just sound like you're from a distance.
Yeah, you've all of a sudden gone quite quiet. Testing, 1, 2.
How's that?
Yeah, that's better. Do I sound okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like I've answered everything that that you've got questions about, really. And
Well,
again, I don't want
I still have
to I don't want to
questions
see
about
I don't
it,
want to
but,
sound rude when I'm saying it, but so much of this is very
yeah,
basic knowledge that you could find with a few Google searches. I'm not like I'm
yeah,
not. This isn't knowledge that has taken me decades of study to get. This is just kind of general knowledge that I'm giving you.
yeah. Well, I get that. The problem that I have is that I think that um, basically what's happened is we're in a religion of space and evolution, and that's because they're hiding our true selves from ourselves.
I
And
disagree with that completely. There's
they're hiding.
nothing religious
I'm not
about
religious in
space.
that way, but they're hiding spirituality from us.
I don't think anyone's hiding spirituality. If you want to be spiritual, that's all you. I don't think anyone's
Yeah,
attempting to hide that from anybody. But the fact is that spirituality is irrelevant to scientific advancement.
yeah,
I mean, it's great. If you want to be spiritual and you want to have that about yourself, have at you. But it doesn't affect science in any way.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But uh, the fact of the matter is, I think that we're losing our spirituality, and it's been purposely done. And this is a big conspiracy to hide the fact that
What's
we
a
live
conspiracy?
on a spiritual realm as well as the material realm.
Spiritual is a
But
personal thing. you know,
Sorry?
Earth, spiritual is a personal thing. Earth is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a physical place that we exist, and spirituality doesn't change that empirical fact. Spirituality is a personal thing and has no bearing on our knowledge of the universe.
Yeah.
I just don't think anyone's
All right.
trying to hide anything.
No, it's all right. It's been nice chatting with you.
Okay, I'm just gonna let me see if I've got any questions from the audience for you before you go.
Okay.
First, one sec. No, none of the questions really seem to be for you, so it's fine. Quentin, if you're happy to go, I've enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like any further information about anything I've said, please feel free to contact me, and I can send you scientific papers, studies, experiments, anything that you want. Never believe what you're told. Always verify for yourself. But also, don't be incredulous just for the sake of being incredulous, because that stops you having an open mind. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, not really. I'm still, I mean, there's the Mercury and Venus thing that we talked about.
I showed you how it was
I'm
possible.
still not convinced on that, and I'm not convinced that we're on Mars in any shape or form. And anyway, there's just so many questions still that, and you answer some of them, but I've got oodles of questions.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, Quentin. How about
we didn't hit on the dinosaurs either,
Okay, so how about
and how we've got.
Organize your thoughts. Write down a list of. How about organize your thoughts? Write down a list of things that you think we could have a further conversation about, and you're more than welcome to come back. I'll talk about dinosaurs, whatever you want.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Quentin. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
See you later. Can anybody else say personal incredulity? Yeah, that's what that's all about. Well, that was the first debate of tonight. I'm pretty sure that people normally get paid for teaching basic shit like this, right? This is the job of teachers, yeah? Not some Scottish disabled dude sitting in his front room, which is bloody warm and thunderstorms and crazy stuff tonight. Right, we're going to have another debate tonight. It's going to be another chat with Shane St. Pierre. And we'll see if the crazy cracker is going to join. That's going to be maybe in about an hour's time. But for now, I'm going to read the super chats and we're going to get out of here. Our pal, I don't know how you do it. Nah, neither do I, mate. Yeah, K-Mac, that's a very Bristolian Scottish accent. It is, right? But when I go back and see my parents, they think I sound Scottish. But obviously up here, I sound like a farmer because, you know. I had a poll put on my community post last night, which is a very important poll in regards to the future of the channel and something that I'm planning to do. If you haven't had a look, please do go and vote on that poll and leave me your comments, your thoughts. There'll be a video coming explaining more about it soon, but just have a look at my community page, have a vote, and let me know your thoughts, and look out for more information. So, I'm going to read super chats. We have Draco Fire, my favourite 12-year-old, for $2 says, not even 5 minutes and already a Flerf argument. Yeah, I'm not a flat earther, but here's all the arguments the flat earthers give. It's the problem. When you're ignorant and you are full of personal incredulity, it's very easy to fall into becoming a Flerf. Adrenochrome Slurper says, I'm a good teacher, it just seems he's deep in his delusion and therefore doesn't listen. Yeah, Draco, this was something. It was me answering very basic questions. Scotty McDougall, been a member for 2 months, says, I won't be able to hang around for the whole debate as I'm driving back to Scotland tomorrow from Essex. Squash the stupid FTFE, you rock. No, you rock. Rabbit, the Rabbit, actually, for $5. I'm not a Flerf, but if you lined up the sun as like in front of Mars, directly behind the Earth, what has been seen directly above and under the Earth? What? I am not a Flerf. Okay, but if you lined up the sun as like in front and Mars directly behind the Earth, what has been seen directly above and under the Earth? What? You mean like above the axis of rotation and below it? Like Polaris above and the, you know, southern rotational point below, I guess? Is that what you're asking? I don't know. Thanks for the super chat, Little Rabbit. Lord Illuminous Pooh for $5 says, fight. Tell Brainy his teleporter watch is malfunctioning. We received his right hand by itself and it's molesting the crew. Shit. Yeah. We meant to recall the watch that Brainy had. Apparently it was an intern that kind of took the NASA technology and tried to like make a knockoff that then he contacted Brainy, he pretended to be the real NASA, and got Brainy to wear the watch. And there has been a few problems. I was sent Brainy's spleen yesterday. It's in a box just down there. Actually, I need to give it back to him. So now you're saying he's lost his what? His right hand? Yeah, his right hand. So Brainy, if you want your spleen back and your right hand, you're going to need to get in contact with the intern because he's got the source code. We can't find him. He's disappeared. You're on your own. Sorry, dude. Mr. QTube, first name Fuck YouTube, for $5 says, be right back. I have to clean my cat's litter bug before Google Earth sees it. Guys, he thought that Google Earth was like a live feed. Dick Wayne says, for the record, the definition of stupid is this quote, roots grow down because of gravity. But that's a fact. Roots do grow down because of gravity. That's how they know which way down is. It's amazing, isn't it? If you think that's stupid, then you don't understand gravity. Oflamo for $5 says, the only thing I see is the light reflecting from something according to the scientists, FTFE. Yeah, according to the scientists, like I said. Lord Illuminous Pooh, $5. I kind of hope that when they turned on CERN after the giant explosion and fade to black, we'd see a massive sign that just said level 2. There's a theory that when something happens that allows us to fully understand the nature of the universe, that the universe will end and then be reborn, but in an infinitely more complex manner. There's another theory that says this has happened already many, many, many times. 10 points if you can tell which comic that's from. Lance Jess Ellis for $5 says, space is 3D. I don't know why flat earthers can't seem to understand this. Wait, I think I just answered my own question. Yeah, flat earthers can't understand. Exactly. Yeah, Limit Break in the chat says, I'm still appalled that he kept saying we could see all of Mercury with the naked eye when you literally said you have to zoom in to see the true shape. Yeah, it's the Flerf reset. I can say things directly to them, but because they have already got their talking point loaded, it doesn't matter. Lance Jesselise, no, just read that one. Traveller X, who's been a member for 31 fucking months, says, question for the Flerf. Sorry, I didn't see that. Assume you are wrong for a minute. Why would a space agency dedicate any of its budget to proving you are wrong? Yeah, he's one of these people that says, "Oh, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I've just got questions," because he never studied. Zachariah Hooper for $4.99 says, Quentin, we can't agree to disagree. Let's just agree that you're wrong. Yeah, I don't like it when they go, let's just agree to disagree. No, you're wrong. I'm not going to agree with you. Lord Luminous Pooh for $2 says, lick the like button before you get licked by me. Please don't let Lord Luminous Pooh lick you. And you don't have to lick the like button. In fact, your phone that you're probably watching this on is probably covered in horrible bacteria. So I would advise you just press the like button and then maybe wash your hands. Skycloud Observer, been a member for 17 months, says clearly the Earth is a Mobius strip, an inverted Mobius strip. Glenn Riley, member for 7 months, says keep up the great work debunking the flat Earth. Always, my friend. And thank you for the support as well. It means the world. Lord Illuminous Pooh for $2. Before the Big Bang was Gnabgib. Yeah, Red Dwarf. Takos Yanis for 1,024 huffs. A space gizmo that converts urine into drinkable water works in space and also on Earth. Some Flerfs can do this too, even without the hardware. I think it's actually, you have to drink your own piss to be a Flerf. Ugh. Someone was telling me about a guy that not only drinks his own pee, but it was Emma, actually, my wife was telling me about this. He doesn't only drink his own pee, but he uses it as a foot bath and as eye drops. Yeah. He uses his piss as eye drops, guys. 3-1 says, oops, already licked the like button on my phone. Start taking the course of antibiotics, bud. Stringer News 1 for $5. One of my favourite people says, Flerfs just drink the urine. Yeah, limit break, I'm sorry. I had to say that. Oh, the vomit emojis. Tim Tully for $5 says, Google Earth shows images of businesses and buildings that aren't there anymore. It's not real time. He didn't rage quit, Onyan. We had a decent conversation, and I think he ran out of incredulous points to ask me. Freeron for $2 says, this could have been perfect for soundboard FTFE. You're right. I probably could have done this entire debate with a soundboard. That's still coming. Beach 8, been a member for 30 months, says, thank you, Craig. No, thank you, my friend. Albesh UA for $5 Canadian says, hey, Craig, pronounce Fuk... No, I'm not going to pronounce that pendulum because you will laugh at me and say I did it wrong. So I'm not going to do it. I'll just get a clip of Anthony Riley saying it. How's about that? Takos Yanis for 1,024 huffs says, please do a video about one of those pendulums hanging from a hovering helicopter. Yeah, but helicopters are pendulums, guys, because apparently they're attached to the Earth via a pivot point. That's what the guy I spoke to the other day said. Yeah. Andreas Elditch for 50 secs, all of the sex, says, I guess that quote about the universe resetting is from Doctor Who. No. Try again. Quentin Kids just messaged me, says, can we do another in a week or so? Absolutely. I think I might try and get an expert of some kind to talk to him, because he's for saving. Right, guys, I'm going to be talking to Shane pretty soon, so stay tuned. It's not TV, so you don't really need to do that. You can go and watch other stuff and then just watch this whenever you want. I'm not your boss. I don't need to tell you what to do. You've got your own life. Tell me to shut up, please. The Spinach Inquisition for $2 says, ha, I bet you didn't expect me. No, no, I didn't. And we're going to end it there. I'll see you soon, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I love you all. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth. Fight the flat. 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 How Software says, say sixth. Sixth. There you go. Andreas Elditch, 26, says Red Dwarf. Oh, dude, you've never seen Red Dwarf. You're missing out. Limit Break thinks I can redeem Shane. We will see. We will see.